Welcome. You ever say yes to something and then 5 minutes later think, wait, why did I agree to that? Well, today we're cracking open Robert Cialdini's masterpiece, Influence, to get to the bottom of the hidden psychological triggers that make us agree to things, often without even realizing what's happening.
So, to get started, let's dive into a story from the book that, honestly, it sounds like it breaks every rule of sales. It's a total head-scratcher, but trust me, it's the perfect key for unlocking everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so picture this. A friend of Cialdini's runs a jewelry shop in Arizona. The store is packed with tourists. She has this beautiful turquoise jewelry. The quality is good. The prices are totally fair, but nobody's buying it. It's just sitting there.
She's completely fed up. She's about to leave on a trip and just wants to get rid of this stuff, so she scribbles this quick note for her head saleswoman, telling her to just cut the price in half on the whole lot. But this is where it gets wild. The employee couldn't really read her boss's handwriting and thought the note said to multiply the price by 2. So she doubles the price of every single piece, and the entire collection sells out, almost instantly. So, what is going on here? How on earth does doubling the price make something sell out? Well, this little mystery leads us right to the core idea of the entire book. Our brains rely on mental shortcuts to get through the day. We're bombarded with so much information, we need these little automatic triggers. Cialdini has a fantastic name for this, the click-whir response.
And to explain it, he gives this incredible example from the animal world. A mother turkey has a very specific trigger for her maternal instincts. It's one thing and one thing only, the cheep cheep sound of her chicks. In one experiment, a mother turkey would actually nurture and protect a stuffed polecat, which is her mortal enemy, just as long as it had a little recorder inside playing that cheep cheep sound.
Scientists call these fixed action patterns. It's like we all have these pre-recorded tapes in our heads. And even though that turkey example seems pretty extreme, we humans have our own versions of these tapes. A certain trigger appears, that's the click, the tape starts playing, and whir, out comes the standard set of behaviors. No real conscious thought needed.
And that brings us right back to the jewelry store. The tourists, who probably didn't know the first thing about turquoise, fell back on a very common, very human shortcut. Expensive equals good. That high price tag became the trigger, the cheap cheap sound, if you will, for quality. Click, the price doubled. Whir, they bought it all.
Now, it's really important to understand that these shortcuts aren't some kind of design flaw in our brains. They're actually an essential survival mechanism. As the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead put it, we absolutely need these automatic behaviors to function. If we didn't have them, we'd be totally paralyzed, analyzing every single little decision all day long.
Okay, so now that we get this basic click-whir idea, let's dive into the specific triggers that Cialdini calls the weapons of influence. And we're going to start with one of the most powerful rules in all of human society, reciprocation.
This rule it's woven into the very fabric of who we are, in every culture on Earth. If someone does something nice for us, we feel this powerful, sometimes even uncomfortable, obligation to do something for them in return. It's this social glue that holds us together.
This study just shows you how incredibly strong this rule is. A researcher would give some people a can of Coke, a small, totally unexpected gift. A little later, he'd ask them if they wanted to buy some raffle tickets. And the people who got the free Coke, they bought twice as many tickets as the people who got nothing. That's the 2x you see here.
And what's really fascinating is that the study showed this rule is totally overpowering. It didn't matter if people liked the guy giving them the Coke or not, they still felt like they owed him. It also works for favors you didn't even ask for. And this is the big one, it can be used to create really unfair exchanges, where a tiny little favor can guilt you into a much bigger one.
So this is where it gets really strategic. This reciprocity rule can be used in a much more subtle, clever way. A tactic Cialdini calls rejection then retreat. It's basically psychological jujitsu.
Cialdini tells this story about it happening to him. A Boy Scout comes up to him and asks if he wants to buy some $5 circus tickets. Cialdini says no. Then the scout says, well, if you don't want any tickets, how about buying one of our $1 chocolate bars? And Cialdini bought 2 of them, even though he doesn't like chocolate. So why do you do it?
It's because the scout made a concession. The logic is so simple and so brilliant. You start with a big request that you're pretty sure is going to get rejected. Then you retreat to a smaller request, which was your real goal all along. The other person sees your retreat as you making a concession, and they feel this automatic urge to make a concession of their own, which is to say yes to your smaller request.
And believe me, this tactic doesn't just sell candy bars. Cialdini makes this absolutely mind-blowing argument that it might just be the psychological key to understanding one of the biggest political scandals in American history, Watergate.
Just look at this timeline. The famous $250,000 plan to bug the Watergate Hotel, that wasn't G. Gordon Liddy's opening pitch. Oh no. He started by proposing a completely insane $1 million plan with kidnapping squads and blackmail. When they rejected that, he came back with a cheaper $500,000 version. They rejected that one too. So you see what happened. By the time Liddy presented his third plan, the bare bones one, the committee had already shot down 2 proposals that were way more extreme and expensive. So to them, approving this final plan, it felt like a concession. It felt reasonable in comparison. It was a textbook rejection then retreat.
Okay, so this is some seriously powerful stuff. The obvious question is, how do you defend yourself against this? How do you avoid being played without turning into a total cynic who just says no to everything?
Well, Cialdini's advice is actually pretty straightforward. You don't have to reject the initial offer out of hand. The secret is to accept it, but just accept it for what it truly is. If it turns out to be a genuine favor from someone, great. Feel free to return a favor down the line. But if you realize it's just a sales tactic,
And you just have to do this one simple thing in your head. Redefine the situation. The rule of reciprocity says you should meet a favor with a favor. It says nothing about meeting a trick with a favor. The second you relabel it in your mind from a gift to a tactic, that feeling of obligation just evaporates. You're completely free to say yes or no.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. We've barely scratched the surface of just one of Cialdini's principles today, but it already gives you a whole new way of looking at your own decisions. So take a second and think about it. What are your go-to automatic shortcuts? What are your personal click-whir responses that you rely on every single day?